Today, we're going to look at something that sounds a bit like industrial alchemy. We're going to break down how one company, 905 Wood, is using some pretty incredible software to turn chaotic, messy construction waste into something that's precise, valuable, and completely verifiable. They call it the Digital Refinery.
But let's just get right to the heart of it. How in the world do you take a pile of splintered wood from a demolition site, something you literally have to pay someone to haul away, and transform it into a tradable, high-value asset with a completely airtight audit trail? Okay, let's dive in and see how it's done.
So we're going to take a full tour. First, we'll look at the huge problem that's making all this necessary. Then, we'll get a clear definition of what a digital refinery even is. We'll spend most of our time inside the AI refinery itself, breaking down its 5 main layers. Then, we'll look at the valuable stuff it creates. And finally, we'll zoom out and see what this could mean for the future. All right, so let's start with what you might call the crude problem. See, to really get why this solution is so cool, you first have to understand the massive pressure cooker that is Ontario's waste industry right now. This isn't some theoretical thing, it's a real and pressing issue. This is the number that should get your attention. 9 years. In about 9 years, Ontario is on track to completely run out of landfill space. In infrastructure time, that's like tomorrow. People call it the waste cliff, and it is forcing the entire industry to completely reinvent itself.
And if a ticking clock wasn't enough, new regulations are really turning up the heat. There's a new tax coming in 2026 that's going to make it way more expensive to just dump mixed waste. And then, by 2029, a ban will make it flat out illegal for landfills to even accept clean wood. So yeah, the old way of doing things, just haul it and dump it, is basically over.
And here is the real heart of the problem. The stuff coming from a demo site, it's a total mess. But the companies who want to buy it, the ones making things like green steel or renewable energy, they need a material that's almost as pure as something you'd find in a lab. We're talking less than 1% contamination. This massive gap in quality is exactly what the Digital Refinery was designed to bridge.
So let's get into the solution. It's important to know this isn't just another app you download. It's a whole new way of thinking about industry. 905 Wood thinks of itself as a middleware bridge, something that connects the chaos out in the field to the high-precision world of the new bioeconomy.
You know, this quote from the source material just says it all, doesn't it? It perfectly explains why the old way of sorting waste at some central facility just doesn't work. Because once clean wood gets mixed with, say, pressure-treated wood that has arsenic in it, it's game over. You can't uncontaminate it. The value is just gone. You have to prevent it from getting mixed in the first place. And that brings us to the core idea here. The Digital Refinery basically looks at a physical truckload of wood scraps and treats it like a stream of data. It takes that messy, low-value input, the crude oil, if you will, and it runs it through all these layers of digital processing and validation to distill it into a certified, high-value product.
Okay, time to pop the hood. This is the engine room, the 5 interconnected layers of software and hardware that really make this whole thing work.
We're going to walk through the stack one layer at a time. We'll start with the initial scan right on the job site, then move to the hard science that backs it up, the legal AI that keeps everything compliant, the financial part that makes people want to do the right thing, and finally, the audit-proof report it spits out at the end.
Layer 1 is all about making this easy and fast. Using a super efficient AI model, any worker can just point their normal smartphone at a pile of wood and get an answer, clean or treated, in less than 2 seconds. And what's really key is this all happens right on the phone. No internet needed.
But here's where it gets really smart. The system doesn't just blindly trust its own eyes. It has this built-in rule called the precautionary principle. Before a photo is even taken, the user has to say where the wood came from. If it's a demolition project, the system basically assumes the wood is guilty until proven innocent and flags it for more testing, even if the AI says it looks clean. It uses context to double-check the visual data.
So yeah, that app on the phone is incredibly fast and it's pretty smart. But at the end of the day, it's just looking at pixels. It can't actually see chemistry. And in this business, chemistry is everything. Because those high-risk loads, plus a random sample of all the others, get sent to a central hub for real scientific validation. And this is where the system goes from a good guess to an absolute certainty. This is where it stops looking at pixels and starts seeing the actual atoms.
And the tool for that is something called X-ray fluorescence, or XRF. You can basically think of it as a scanner that hits the wood chips with X-rays, which makes the atoms inside give off a unique signal, kind of like a fingerprint. This is how the system can spot invisible poisons like arsenic with 100% certainty. The XRF scanner's chemical analysis is the final word. It is the ground truth. Okay, so once the system knows exactly what the wood is made of, it has to handle all the legal red tape. Layer 3 is the compliance engine. The best way to think about it is like an AI that's taking an open book exam, and its textbook is the entire library of Ontario's environmental laws. And this is a perfect example of its output. The AI doesn't just give you a thumbs down. It tells you why, citing the exact regulation and the specific chemical limit that was violated. This gives you decisions that are explainable, defensible, and totally ready for an audit, and it does it all automatically.
All right, so we've brought in the raw material, we've refined it, we've made sure it's all legal, so what does this refinery actually make? What comes out the other end of the pipe?
Well, what comes out is a mix of really valuable stuff, both physical and digital. The clean wood chips get turned into things like pyrogenic biocarbon for making green steel or renewable natural gas. But just as important, the process itself creates digital assets, unchangeable certificates that prove waste stayed out of the landfill, and high-value carbon credits you can actually sell.
So, how do you get busy construction companies to actually do the hard work of sorting this stuff on site? You use a little bit of behavioral economics. The system has what's called decoupled billing. Basically, the client pays a fixed cost for the truck and driver no matter what. But there's also a variable fee, a levy. And if the system verifies that your wood is clean, that levy drops all the way to zero. It's a direct financial reward for doing the right thing.
And every single piece of this journey, the GPS coordinates of where the wood came from, the AI scan, the XRF chemical data, the legal paperwork, where it ended up, it all gets bundled into a single, unchangeable, audit-ready PDF. This document is the real final product. You're not just buying waste removal, you're buying certified trust, you're buying bulletproof proof.
And that brings us to the really big picture. This 5-layer system, intake, validation, regulation, finance, and reporting, it's not just about wood. It's a blueprint for something much, much bigger. This model could work for anything. You could apply the exact same logic to plastics, to drywall, to concrete from a demolition, any waste stream where there's a big gap between its messy as-is state and what it could become. So the final question really isn't about if this works, it's about where we point this powerful blueprint next. What other chaotic industries are out there just waiting to be refined?